morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I would like to welcome all our audience and participants today for another episode of the museum series titled Framing Context into Concept: The Unseen Challenges of Contemporary Art Curation. My name is Fatma Desare, the Executive Director of Qatar American Institute for Culture, or as we like to call it, QAIC. We are a Washington, D.C. nonprofit organization that focuses on art and culture exchange between Qatar, the US, and the larger Arab and Islamic worlds. Today, we are very honored to have four amazing participants and speakers who come from both Qatar and the US, and they will enrich this conversation by presenting about their institutions and about their vision and their understanding of what it means as contemporary arts and the exhibitions and the curation today. A few words again about QAIC. We are a nonprofit institute based in Washington, D.C., as I mentioned, and this is the third episode of the museum series. In the past, we had one episode that focused on Islamic art and another one that focused on native arts. And we like to expand our also focus on museum series, especially that this year is the Qatar US 2021 Year of Culture. In this context, we bring together artists, curators, historians, academics, and storytellers, architects, designers, and others, offering art exhibitions, educational programs, opportunities for scholarly research, and interactive experiences. Today, we are pleased to bring you our third virtual museum series. And by our focus today, we want to see the approaches to curating and the factors that impact each of the institutions. For many English speakers, contemporary and modern are synonyms and interchangeable, but in the art world, there are two distinct approaches to art. Our participants with us today and their institutions have an important presence representing the vast expanse of contemporary art. They are curators, scholars, and respected custodians of this ever-expanding field. As professionals, they engage in research, scholarship, acquisitions, and narrative exhibition design, both for new audiences and those already devoted to the subject. With that, I would like to ask our speakers to start presenting themselves and their backgrounds and also their institutions before we delve into a discussion that will take about 20 or 25 minutes, and also we will engage our audience questions. I would like to go from east to west. To me, east is from Doha, and we will go east coast and then in the Midwest. So we have first Khalifa Labedli, who is the director of artists in residence and at Fire Station, and who is also a renowned photographer. And it's Photography Month, and in a couple days we will celebrate World Photography Day. And also we have Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Thani, who is the founding director and chief curator at the Institute of Arab and Islamic Art at New York. And we have Michelle Yuen Mapplethorpe, who is the director of Asia Society Museum at New York. And we have Dr. Ariana Cashone, who is the curator of global contemporary art at the Smart Museum of Art at Chicago. So welcome all. Thank you so much for taking the time to be part of this engaging and hopefully very informative session. So with that, I want to ask Khalifa to start.
Yeah, thank you, Fatma. Welcome everybody. Good morning, America, and good evening, Doha. Assalamu alaikum, and we will start. I have a presentation here. I will take you in a journey by Fire Station and how we start this project and what is the impact we had at the art scene in Doha. Here is the presentation for the Fire Station Artist in Resident. And this building, which is actually, it's an iconic building in Doha, built in the 80s, and it is reflecting the architect language of the 80s, like the post office, Sheraton Hotel. So Fire Station was one of the iconic building in that days. I remember this launching with the press for all the team would involved in this project in 2014. And after that, we start this project, and the location, which is really amazing. This is the Doha Corniche, and we are just here on the whole Doha Park or Al Bida Park, which will be actually the fan zone for World Cup 2022. So we are just an amazing space to welcome our visitors in Doha. Fire Station used to be the most iconic building and architect in Doha, and it has amazing role in that time, defending for fighting the fire and keep the society and community safe. So this is some photograph from the old fire station and the garage for the cars and the entrance, and how we try to utilize it for the artist. If you see this floor ground, this is the building actually of the original, the fire station. And to make it more practical and usable for the artist, so we add another building around it to support the concept of the residency. Um, we developed this building to be lighted by the natural light. So a lot of glass facade was involved. And then we kept the same facade and as an iconic building there. Even the light there, it is a friendly environment, friendly inside. We put like fontaines that Doha in summer is really hot, but the weather acclimatize the plaza at the fire station, so water space. The building have got a lot of spaces in this area and this area which has been added. So the main gallery, it is the garage gallery in this area, and then here we have got an employee and the staff in this offices, and then we built this workshop, which is wood workshop, and Al Markhia gallery, and then another two spaces as a gallery. Then we have got the cinema and Cas Art, and then we have Cafe 999. But where is the artist? The artist actually staying on the five-story building, which is all this buildings here in the top have got studios, and we have small studios and really large studios. So the basic, it is 20 studios in the building with an amazing garage gallery at the ground floor. The total spaces we have here around 8,000 square meter, which is divided on different facilities and spaces. But the most important that the gallery, which is around 850 square meter. Fire station, this is the final look after all the renovation happening for the building. And we kept the garage gallery at the bottom here and the artist studios in the top, and we add elevators. So the building now is ready for use. So the program start on 2015 as artist and resident program. This is one of the studios for the artist, and every time we receive 18 artists for a program 9 months continuously. The artists all are resident of Doha. Half of them Qatari artists, and the next half it is expat. So the most popular event we have, it is open studio night. And this open studio, all the community visiting us to see the artists and their studios. For example, this is one of the artists, Faraj Daham, meeting Yasser in his studio and discussing about his work. So this is one of the popular. We receive around 300, 350 people in that night. One of the important event as well, it is Over Karak. And Over Karak, the 18 artists every 2 weeks are invited to visit one of their friends or colleague in the program. So each artist have got to do it 3 times around the program to receive all the his colleagues and to discuss and his concept and to show them what he's doing. The idea behind this more to exchange the practices and experts they have. Garage Gallery at the moment hosting a great time, which is the last exhibition now we are showing Garage Gallery. Garage Gallery hosts a lot of amazing exhibitions. For example, Picasso Giacometti, Laundromat by Ayawewe, and then also Cause. So a lot of high caliber artist and exhibition has been hosted there to impact the artist. The most space I like in that program, it is the Cafe 999. Cafe 999, it's become really a gathering point, not only for the artist, even the student. They are coming there every morning. I see them. The meetings, even sometime I move some meetings to that Cafe 999, and it is become like an area to meet and discuss. And if you want to meet sometime artists, you find them there. So it's become very popular at the moment after like 5 years of the cafe operation. Now we restorated. Now we are doing a restoration for the cafe. It will reopen end of this year in December with different cuisine and more lively and engaging kitchen with visitors. We have an amazing cinema, almost for 100 seats, and we do small program, panel discussion. We do movie night with Al Jazeera documentary. For example, we have a program to show their documentary movies about art. We have a Fab Lab and workshop, all that to support the artist to implement their work or any tools they need or any display they need it for their work or their studios or supporting them. So Fire Station become artist destination, and a lot of young artists and pioneer artists visiting us and our exhibitions and activities we do. Also, we have like international arms. So with the Paris and City des Arts, we have a studio, and we send every year 4 artists to do a residency in Paris for 3 months, each artist, and that's giving them more like exposure with artists participating in City des Arts. And also we have the international curator and the studio program. So this is in New York and Brooklyn. Also this partnership almost now 2 years, and it's amazing also opportunity for our artists to spend their residency in this amazing organization and also meet amazing artists there. So this program, by the way, it's affected a lot of artists who's participating and change or develop their thoughts, their mind, their concepts by meeting international artists from different descents in that areas. Artist voice during the we are expressing the artist voice. So during the blockade, artists even uh, graffiti gave their voice on fire stations. So some artworks, for example, the vest of Barak Al Malik was in the fire station, and also Dimitri, one of the local artists here in Doha, create this image on the tower at the fire station. So a lot of collaboration and impact from the local artist with fire station happening. Maybe the recent program now we are working on, it is Rawad program. Rawad program, we started 2 years ago with Faraj Daha. And Faraj, one of the pioneer artists, he stayed with us at Fire Station almost 2 years, creating amazing work. And at the moment, we have Hassan Al Mullah and Wafiqa Sultan Al Isa. These two artists now at the Fire Station. And the idea to have the pioneer artist and residents with the Fire Station to connect them with the younger generation. I feel like this communication between the older artists who established the art in Doha and the younger generation, it's very important to continue the, the link between them and the message to be passed through them. Here is one of the program 2018 with the artist, and until today, almost we have alumni like 80 artists in the program, and maybe I will speak a little bit about some of the artists and how is the impact of the program we are doing in the fire station, and change or develop their vision during this program, and the exchange happening between the artists. Asha Suwaidi, one of the experimental sculptures and art and working on glass and cement and different materials to bring her thoughts. Um, um, Mariam Lohmed. Mariam Lohmed is more in technology, and she developed interactive artwork, more like an installation. You uh, you read it through your mobile or an iPad, that your mobile will interact and recognize of the codes, and then it will give you on the artwork what is the past, what is the present. It's amazing interactive piece she create. Hana Saadi. Hana Saadi, even she's like a tiny girl, but she's working with cement. She's amazing person, and she create her infinity by cement. And really, she make a lot of, some artists leaving a stamp or a thought or a sign in the fire station. Hana, one of them. Rhoda Nasser. Rhoda, she worked on organic, the sculptures and the desert, the recycling, on how's the growth and how's the death. So she's also working in this concept. This type of experiment wouldn't go out without mentors, without all this exchange happening. And what we see, it's really affecting a lot, and with the artist. Charles, he created the emotional movement with the music, using cool and in the wall or on the ground. So every time in the studio, his studio like a mass with all black powder or coal in the ground, in the wall, but at the end he created an amazing, a huge artwork on a paper and installation video with the music as well. Waqas Farid is a photographer and a conceptual artist. You see here we have a different practices of sculptures, photographers, painters, installations. So it's different artists, and we are accepting all artists. Maybe Sheikh Al Mayasa, she's behind all this movement of contemporary art. And I remember in this image when she came to open at the first artist in resident exhibition in Garage Gallery with Emily, her carpet. This carpet made of sand, and this sand has been taken from different area from Doha, colored, and then she create this carpet. And the idea to walk on the carpet all during the exhibition and see the change which is happening for this carpet. It's like a 7 meter by 5 meter carpet, amazing artwork. So Sheikh Al Mayasa, and we start this exhibition by walking this carpet. So all this area wouldn't happen without Sheikh Al Mayasa support for developing the art scene in Doha. So we are available on the social media. There is a huge interact on social media. Our event and activities are always there. The next event we have, it is very important on the 15th of September, which is starting the Artist in Resident Program 7 this year. Thank you very much for your attention. And this is the fire station.
Thank you so much, Khalifa, for this thorough presentation. And we are really excited to know more about the upcoming event. And also, this is maybe still off records, but we're really also excited about exploring the potential residency collaboration between us and Fire Station to further even extend the cross-cultural exchange between the US and Qatar. With that, I want to move to Sheikh Mohammed, and we're really excited to hear more about Aya and about the great work that you do, even with Methaf, if you would like to talk a little bit about that.
Just want to check if the screen is on.
Yes.
Great. I would like to thank Qatar American Institute for Culture for the opportunity today, and for everyone joining us. It's an honor to be amongst my colleagues from Qatar and the USA. One of the main factors which led me to start the Institute of Arab and Islamic Art in New York spurred from my experiences of the different institutions in New York City, and specifically the lack of representations of artists from the Arab and Islamic region in their programs. We are not a collecting institution. Therefore, curating exhibitions is one of the most fundamental aspects of the institution. And building an exhibition in an independent, smaller space is really different from my experience in Methaf in a larger museum with enhanced facility. I mean, budget, space, location, all these really determine a lot of the choices we make as curators. From my perspective, curating exhibitions is fundamentally lies on how we curate an experience and what kind of journey we would like to take our audiences through. The narrative, the visual component, and public programming, these are the elements that are very important when it comes to building an exhibition. Without enough material to work with for public programming, we wouldn't have a lasting impact on our audience. Our first exhibition in New York embodied the cultural exchanges of the Islamic world. The show examined how historical architectures that shaped the Arab and Islamic civilizations have, till this very moment, a continued impact on the works of many contemporary artists. Architecture and geometry is a global language, and the four multi-generational artists in our exhibition hail from the various geographies across the world, but really have this one common language, and that's Islamic architecture. This not only gave us a diverse visual language, but also increased the possibility of our public programming, and gave us really an opportunity to engage the public beyond just the visual. As part of our first exhibition, we invited Dr. Peter Liu, a postdoctoral research fellow in the Department of Physics and the School of Engineering at Harvard, to perform an interactive lecture on the scientific approach of quasi-crystals in Islamic architecture. For us, that was really important to bring in people that perhaps were not only interested in the visual component, but wanted more of an educational approach. And also to give our program several different dimensions and see how more of a scientific approach can give layers of perspective on the exhibition itself. I mean, as a curator, I believe it's vital that we find various ways in building our audiences and to try to seduce parts of the community that don't often have interest in contemporary art to experience our work as curators and the work of the artists. I remember in Methaf, during my first few weeks, I worked very closely with visitor services and the education department to know more about the statistics of the visitors, the demographic, and what exhibitions in the past 10 years were more engaging than others, and why. I mean, no matter how great one thinks their ideas or narrative of an exhibition is, it really won't work if you haven't examined the community around you. For me, that engagement started with looking at Qatar Foundation, where Methaf is situated, and trying to find threads that would pique the interest of the students, faculty, and the employees that belong to the universities and the other institutions in Qatar Foundation, with the Virginia Commonwealth University being the first university to open in Qatar Foundation and the only school that focuses solely on art, design, and fashion. I knew that we had to start there. From studying Methaf's previous exhibitions, we realized that the museum hadn't brought in a fashion component in their previous shows. And having worked with Oget Kalan previously in New York and seeing how diverse her work is, from abstract minimal paintings to cross-stitching drawings, all the way to the textiles in her kaftan, I knew that there were so many components that would not only speak to the community in Qatar, but also to a larger and broader global context. The choices that we made with Oget Kalan's exhibition landed us by Artsy, Vogue Britain, and Vogue France as the top 20 exhibitions of 2020 worth traveling for. Unfortunately, due to COVID, the situation really was slightly different. As we see in this photo here, we brought in about 50 kaftans to the exhibition, and immediately the photos of the installation picked up on social media and went viral. The kaftans were relatable to the audiences in Qatar, but for us it was also a tool to lure the visitor in and have them experience the other forms of contemporary art that were installed in the other galleries. At the end, the people that came specifically to see the kaftans ended up experiencing the paintings and sculptures in Uget's show and also in the other exhibitions curated by my colleague. Despite COVID, the statistics have shown us that the exhibition was amongst the most visited, with a large number of locals that have visited the museum for the first time. This also opened up the opportunity to increase our public engagement and collaborate with M7. M7 is a design hub, part of Qatar Museum, and they are based in Msheireb. Through Agat Kolan's Faces and Places exhibition, we invited 8 young Qatari-based designers to draw inspiration from the exhibition and create their own works of art and garments by reimagining the kaftans. The designers explored the different shapes and forms and textiles, each really conveying their unique visual language. The works were exhibited in M7 this past spring. I think in many instances, exhibitions are built and mounted for historians and academics, forgetting our roles as curators, that we serve public institutions and we serve the community. And therefore, it's really important to be engaging the public with our work. When we build our exhibitions, yes, it's important to think and work as an academic or a scholar. But I think even more importantly, when it comes to choosing the artworks and installing the exhibition, it's important to think as a designer. The power of the visual language will increase the number of the audiences that fundamentally determine the success of an exhibition. I always say that the first impact determines how much time the visitor will spend in your space and how likely they would recommend the exhibition to others. And I would like to take this opportunity and share a 1-minute video. في منتصف القرن الماضي كانت بيروت تعد إحدى عواصم الموضة، وكان الطابع السائد في ذاك الوقت هو اللباس الغربي، وحينها اتخذت هوجت قرار باتباع الطابع العربي في تصميم وارتداء العباءة والقفطان، ومن هذا المنطلق بدأت مسيرتها الفنية. في باريس كانت لوحات الفنانة تخاطب الجسد من خلال فن التجريد والتجريد المبسط، وعندما كانت معايير الجمال القادمة من الغرب تحدد ما هو جميل، اتخذت الفنانة نهجاً فنياً يتحدى هذه المعايير.
بدأت الفنانة أوغيت كالون في رسم الخط المتصل، حيث أصبح عاملاً رئيسياً في أعماله.
شهدت كاليفورنيا نقلة فنية للفنانة أوغيت من التجريد المبسط إلى أعمال كثيرة الدقة والتفاصيل تحاكي فنون النسيج، وتعكس هذه اللوحات ذاكرة الفنانة والوجوه والأماكن التي لم تفارقها طوال رحلتها عبر 3 قارات. I will hand it over to you, Fatma. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheikh Mohammed, for giving us this overview about Methaf and about Aya. And we're really looking forward to support your work on both. Now I want to move our conversation to Michelle Yoon, the director of Asia Society Museum in New York.
Thank you so much, Fatima. And first, I'd like to, let me just share my screen very quickly. But I'd also like to give thanks to the Qatar American Institute for Culture and to you for inviting me to participate in this wonderful panel today and to have this platform to share with your audience about Asia Society's mission and program. So for those of you who are not familiar with Asia Society Museum, it was founded by John D. Rockefeller III in 1956, who had this very prescient perspective that Asia was going to serve a great role in the future, which we've seen in more recent days. And he felt that it was essential to have an organization in the United States specifically mandated to develop greater relationships, empathy, and appreciation and understanding between Asia and the West. And so what really began as one cited organization headquartered in New York really flowered into what Asia Society has become today. 13 centers spread across 4 continents with a very multidisciplinary focus on arts and culture, policy, education, and business. And so with Asia Society Museum, we have always been on the forefront of scholarship and introducing the United States in particular, but also collaborating with our Asian colleagues to develop, meaningful dialogues and deep dives into arts across Asia and the diaspora, both with pre-modern and contemporary art. And here you can see on the screen our areas of focus are our temporary exhibition programming that look from ancient arts of Asia to very contemporary cutting edge commissions. We have a permanent collection that is foundationed through a gift by John D. Rockefeller III and his wife, Blanchette. And that is comprised of about 350 works of traditional art, primarily focusing on sculpture and ceramics and three-dimensional art, but really spanning across mediums. And that's complemented by a contemporary collection that was founded in 2007 and is comprised primarily of video, new media, and photography, though we have also begun to collect in-depth calligraphic works. And then in addition to our visual arts program, we have a very robust performing and interdisciplinary art program that complements the visual art exhibition cycle. We have a new initiative that we just founded in January entitled Asia Society at the Movies, where we have a weekly showing of cutting edge and also classics and documentaries that really represent kind of the scope of our purview as an organization. We also have very broad and nuanced cultural programming that again aligns with not only the curatorial program for the museum, but also aligns with the interdisciplinary issues that our Policy Institute and the Education Initiative also focus on, in our US-China Center as well. And we also really value education initiatives, and so we have a very robust docent program and family education programs, and are very much involved with the community on very different levels, from kind of local communities from the diaspora to very high level member participation. And so, thinking about our exhibition programming, we first started our first exhibition in 1960, and it was really looking at American collections of Asian art. And since then, as I mentioned, we have remained a pioneer, especially in the field of contemporary art. In the early 90s, we were the first organization in the United States to focus on contemporary Asian art at a moment where most of the art coming from that region was thought of as derivative, or that it really wasn't even an element of the field. And so really from that period, we've tried to delve deeply in areas that perhaps our colleagues who are at more encyclopedic institutions may not have the networks or be nimble enough to really focus on certain communities or thematics. More recently, we've been kind of taking a look back and thinking about the development of modernism, which up until now, or up until recently, had been considered more as a Eurocentric and linear conception, but really thinking about these multiple modernities and thinking about how people across the world were having similar conversations and how there was much more cross-cultural exchange and influence than may have previously been acknowledged. And so just in thinking about curatorial practices and how we kind of shift from concept to the finalized exhibition, and also thinking about, especially with contemporary art, how one needs to have some flexibility in the way that we engage and present the material. I thought I would give a short summary about our most recent exhibition, the Asia Society Triennial, which this inaugural edition was called We Do Not Dream Alone, as a case study of kind of thinking about that curatorial arc. So this initiative was really was meant to be a citywide initiative that was going to span over 5 venues across the city, and was going to really take Asia Society's program outside of its home on 725 Park and really bring it to audiences who may not feel comfortable or not be familiar with Asia Society and with contemporary Asian art. So unfortunately, here, let me just move this. Due to the pandemic, we had to, it was scheduled to be on view from from June to August 2020, but in March of 2020, as everybody around the world experienced, we had to close down and pivot. So we were really in the final stages of realizing the triennial. And with this platform, we had engaged 40 artists from 20 countries. About half of those works in the collection were newly commissioned works, and many of them were site specific to the venues that we were working with. And so we had to very quickly pivot and decided to, given the uncertainties of other spaces and also thinking about health and safety, we in large part brought the entire exhibition back to Asia Society. We were able to we were able to continue programming one of the venues in Times Square, which you see here is a presentation of Daniel Crooks's installation, The Subtle Knife, that was shown as part of the Midnight Moment in Times Square, which was very exciting. But really quickly had to pivot in the way that we conceived the exhibition, how the artists were going to present their works, many which were all of a sudden contending with new spaces and different constraints. Especially with the site-specific works, we were going to have all the artists travel to New York and to install the works themselves. So we had to really think of very creative ways of how we were going to install the works without the artist present. So thinking how to do that across time differences and using different types of technologies. These are just some of the works that we're finally included in the show. And so it was really quite a complex series of navigations and pivots to really maintain the integrity of the project, allowing for the uncertainties and really kind of bumps and blockages that we incurred both through shipping and through budget and the limitations of artists who were also in lockdown in their various cities and areas, and how to really kind of make this a viable presentation. And so here's just some other installation views. So we separated the exhibition into 2 sections. The first part was from the end of October to the beginning of February, and then we were able to have part 2 from mid-March to the end of June. And so, we also had to contend with very limited visitorship in New York. At that time, museums were only allowed to have 25% capacity. And so, one way around that, which I found very valuable, and I think that we will continue going forward, is to create a virtual tour of the exhibition. And so that way we could allow our international artists, audiences to engage with the exhibition. And it was interactive. So as you can see here, you could read the didactics, you could navigate yourself, you could actually blow up the images so that you can see all the granular detail. We had audio and video components that our visitors were able to engage. Another way we were able to get around the limitations of the physical engagement is, we engaged artists in other ways and let their voices be heard through our website and again through our virtual program. So we had a series of Q&As with the artists that were talking about their practices, talking about working during the pandemic and lockdown, about their future projects and about the works that were in the show. We had a series of Instagram live programs that it really harnessed social media in a meaningful way to both make connections with the artists and with our disparate audiences around the world. And had a series of virtual public programs that not only looked at the issues that were being highlighted by the artists in the show, but also keeping in mind how the exhibition and its premise could align with some of the issues that were coming up, especially in terms of social justice issues and elements of equity and inclusion. And so we developed a series of interactive book clubs and panel discussions and programs enabled to engage audiences on many different levels. And so I think through this very multifaceted approach of having the physical exhibition, working very closely with the artists and being very kind of collaborative and forgiving in terms and open to different ways of pivoting to make their work possible with the constraints that we had. Definitely utilizing the virtual platform, with our programmatic performances, because we had a number of performances that we had commissioned. Those all pivoted online as well. But really thinking creatively, being open-minded, not being too rigid in terms of, you can maintain the vision and keep the spirit and the integrity of your concept alive, but how to realistically be able to navigate the challenges that you have to make a feasible exhibition with those parameters. So I'd be happy to, in the Q&A period, talk more about that. But I think that this, in the end, was a very successful exhibition, and it really taught us a lot of lessons about how to use new technologies and to reach and engage new audiences. So thank you again, and I look forward to speaking with the group shortly. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Michelle. And with that, I want to move to Dr. Ariana from the Global Contemporary Art at the Smart Museum of Art at Chicago.
Thank you so much, Fatima. Hopefully everyone can see my screen now. Thank you so much to QAIC and to all of our past presenters. It's truly been an honor to be here and to listen to what's happening from Doha to New York and now to Chicago. I'm really excited today to talk about the Smart Museum at the University of Chicago because it's quite different from the other types of spaces that we've listened to or heard about today. The Smart Museum was opened in 1974 as a university art museum. And while I really believe that this provides an exceptional level of flexibility and nimbleness to our programming. It also means that beyond the general public, and I appreciate Sheikh Mohammed's comments earlier about the ways in which we need to be really concretely engaged with our public. Um, we also function quite distinctly as a university art museum. And so by that, we have an academic focus and we need to support teaching, learning, and research. As such, we're constantly navigating many different audiences and core missions, from students and professors to artists and collectors, and also to our publics, especially those on the south side of Chicago and the city at large. Um, Furthermore, I'm the museum's first curator of global contemporary art. And while the museum has had a longstanding history of globally focused exhibitions and collecting, we've really, like the Asia Society, although the Asia Society was very much on the forefront since the late 1990s, we've been increasingly known for our work in contemporary Chinese art. And so for me, as the first curator of global contemporary art, it became important to define how I'm thinking of the global at the museum, both in relation to this history um, of contemporary Chinese art, but also in finding ways that I could work beyond a specifically geographic area. And so thinking more about the methodology of the global and what that means, and particularly thinking around how that often means thinking from outside or thinking from outside of the canon. And then also, how can I engage the intellectual community of the University of Chicago in new and interesting ways that provide new opportunities and experiences for artists, but also um, allow faculty driven research to really expand and extend and innovate in new ways as well. And so today I'm going to introduce two exhibitions that I worked on before the pandemic, revisiting their differences and complexities, but highlighting different types of curatorial research and knowledge production, and then also different ways that we engaged our audience, especially as we are thinking through changes with the pandemic. So first, I'm going to walk you through quickly a project we did with Samson Young, a sound artist based in Hong Kong, Silver Moon or Golden Star, Which Will You Buy of Me? And this is a really wonderful exhibition. And the first exhibition, one of the first exhibitions that I worked on arriving at the museum, and knowing that we're a hub of research and long-term engaged research, I wanted to find an artist who similarly had a research-driven practice. And Samson became an obvious choice, again, both thinking back to this history of contemporary Chinese art, expanding it beyond mainland China, and then also thinking of ways to bring an artist onto campus for an extended multi-visit research project. And so we were able to invite Samson to campus as a research fellow. He was in residence at the university. And we were also able to let him into the library's special collections. He became fascinated by the 1933 Chicago World's Fair, which was subtitled A Century of Progress. And through this, in many ways, research rabbit hole, he became familiar with a set of houses that had been built for the 1933 Chicago World's Fair, especially the House of Tomorrow, which is still in existence. You can see it here on the right side of your screen, as it was in 2019. And he started developing a project in which we commissioned work where Samson was actually filming inside the House of Tomorrow. And this filming became backbone of a video project that he did for us. And so this is really exciting to think through how we could, again, leverage the resources of the university to cultivate and incubate new types of art projects and provide, in many ways, a kind of free space for artists to really test and experiment and expand out their practices. And so I'll walk you through the exhibition. In the end, Houses of Tomorrow ended up becoming the third video in a trilogy of videos loosely thinking through different concepts or notions of utopia that started the same year. So this is The Highway is Like a Lion's Mouth, another work called Dada Company, and then again, Houses of Tomorrow. And here's another installation image. We are also able to integrate the exhibition beyond the walls of the university and into the cultural life of Chicago, working with Expo Chicago, our art fair. We were able to partner with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra and also the the Chicago High School for the Performing Arts Choir to produce a live event where we were treated to the performance of two songs that were originally composed for the 1933 World's Fair. Let's Take a Ride on the Sky Ride and Where Will You Be in 1933, along with a song from which the exhibition's title was derived, a song, The Dream Seller, that Samson remembers fondly from his childhood. And so it was extremely collaborative, working with institutions across Chicago, working back historically and institutions in different departments on campus. And then shifting away from Samson's exhibition, I wanted to talk a little bit about another exhibition, The Allure of Matter, material art from China, that opened last year, just 5 weeks before Chicago was shut down for the pandemic. And this exhibition really offers, I think, an alternative model of a research-driven exhibition. And so this was an exhibition that was initiated by the esteemed Chinese art historian and professor Wu Hong. And it really represented, I think, 6 or 8 years of research that he had undertaken into reconceptualizing or reframing how we think about contemporary Chinese art, and reframing it explicitly through the lens of materials. And so he coined a new phrase, material art, which I've actually found really freeing. It's a new constellation or nodal point for us to begin to think about the global development of modern and contemporary art through artists' explorations explicitly with new and non-traditional materials. And this was an interesting exhibition because it presented a lot of logistical challenges. And so it was an exhibition that was envisioned on a scale that could not fit within the 4 walls of our museum. And so we partnered with a space on Chicago's North Side. This is Wrightwood 659, a beautiful private art institution renovated by Tada Ando. And you can see the geographic difference between Wrightwood 659 and Chicago's North Side, and then down on Chicago's South Side, the Smart Museum at University of Chicago. So it really challenged Wu Hong and I to think about how we would separate and divide and create cohesive exhibitions at each space, but exhibitions that were expansive and also could work on their own as well. And so I'll run you through a few installation shots from the Smart, and then you'll see in the installation shots from Wrightwood that the feel, the sort of environment of each space is radically different. And so we selected works that really played off of the inherent opportunities within each site. And so on the floor here, you'll see this massive tiger skin rug that's actually made with cigarettes by Xu Bing. And I include this image because it reveals the back of the cigarettes and is something that you really can only experience if you see it in the round. Walking through works by Hong Young Ping, Ma Chiu-sha, a young artist, and then in the back, Gu Wenda. And then shifting to Wrightwood again, this was a renovated apartment building. And so it was really interesting to find works actually that were more explicitly dealing with the urban and urban transformation. And so here we see a beautiful, almost cathedral-like work by Liu Wei that's made with old doors that were taken from destroyed buildings in Beijing. And then upstairs, another fantastic work tracking the urban transformation of Beijing, a work by In Xiu-Zhen, where she captured the changing dynamics and really the vibrancy of her neighborhood in the late 1990s. And like Michelle's experience with the triennial, Allure of Matter unexpectedly, because of the pandemic, had to close early, and we were quickly forced into understanding how to continue to activate the exhibition. And we were very lucky for the exhibition, understanding the amount of scholarship that went into it. We'd created a standalone website, and so we were able to transition to a lot of virtual programming on the website. And also were able very quickly to produce virtual tours of both exhibition sites. And then we also started working on a second book for the exhibition, which will be released this fall, The Allure of Matter, Materiality Across Chinese Art, which is one of the first publications that takes a historical view on material art or on Chinese artists' uses of new materials in their artworks, and looks at pre-modern and contemporary Chinese art. With that, I think I'm going to end it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ariana. All your presentations were really fascinating, and unfortunately, we ran out of time for a more fruitful discussion, but I have two questions that I would like to ask, and I'm sure our audience are also interested to hear your thoughts on these two questions. The first one would be it's for Sheikh Mohammed and Ariana, I would say. As curators of contemporary exhibitions, you have the distinction against other historical art curators in that you often work with living artists. Can you each speak to how the curation process differs when working collaboratively with the artists? Maybe we can start with you, Dr. Mohammed, Sheikh Mohammed, and then Dr. Ariana. You're muted, Sheikh Mohammed. And I want to say, let's have 2 minutes for this.
Sure. It differs quite drastically. I mean, during my first exhibition, I worked with, we had 4 artists in the show, and 2 were living artists and 2 have passed away. The artists, when you're working with a living artist, they want to be present in the process. And so, you kind of try to, see your vision through, but at the same time, try to incorporate, the artist's vision to an extent. It's different when it's a group show because they all understand that they have to participate together with other artists. But I also had the opportunity to work with Alex Ayad, a young artist in his early 30s now. And that, he had a solo show, and that also, works completely differently because he knows that, the space is almost his. So he wants to also, kind of mold it the way he sees fit. But also I think it's always kind of a conversation that Curator has with an artist, and trying to find ways in which, you have to compromise as a curator, the artist has to also compromise, but we always remind the artist that the end result is really the audience, and that's, we want to thrive to create an experience for them. But yeah, I mean, it's both is an honor, working with the artist that is historical, not with us anymore, and working with a younger artist that's living.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. What do you think, Ariane?
I think I've had really similar experiences. I think so much of working with living artists is about collaboration, and I think also about establishing trust, because there are definitely times when you have to have hard conversations. Budgets become too big, space becomes an issue, and you really need an artist to know that you are doing everything to display their work in the absolute best possible way, and in a way that inherently sort of understands or gets the artist's intention. And I think that takes a lot of time, and it takes so many discussions. And it is very different working with an artist on a solo exhibition versus working with artists in a group exhibition, because there are a lot more compromises that I think you have to make in a group exhibition. And I think also for curators, really learning to trust your own instincts and voice, to have conversations with the artist you're working with.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your remarks. And now my question to Michelle and Khalifa. The field of contemporary art is incredibly diverse. Very simply put, it's the art that has been and continues to be created in our lifetime. Contemporary art especially, touches on people's lives, on minority issues, and it is, in a way, the art that creates, I would say, social impact. From your experiences, especially now, after seeing Fire Station, I see a lot of female involvement, female artists, from what you've shared with us, Khalifa, and also for you, Michelle, from your experience in Asian society. Can you both address how do you think contemporary art is addressing this matter, and how is it going to change the future? I'll start with you, Michelle.
Sure. I mean, I think one of the things that is most invigorating for me about working with contemporary art is that it really is a reflection of the world in which that artist is living in, and is really such a barometer, I think, of what's going on. And you can glean so much information about a particular region or a moment in time by just, a quick look at an artwork. And so, I think Asian Society's purview is quite broad. We represent East, South, Southeast, West, Central, South Pacific Asia, and the diaspora. And so I think for us, it's always a challenge, I think, to balance that and to really identify artists who, because I think there is something to be said about picking works that are timely and that do speak to a moment, but I think it also has to be true to that artist's voice, and to have, a connection with the artist's larger vision or practice. And so I think being mindful about working with artists, or thinking about ideas that, speak to a particular moment, but then have a more nuanced and a deeper or multifaceted resonance, so that it just doesn't become a very kind of superficial look at, a current topic.
Yeah, Michelle, I agree totally with you. I think here in Doha, a little bit, it is more, there is a transition to a contemporary art. And because of the VCU and all this education, universities with an art college, there is a lot of development going on. And there is Fire Station, it's part now for the art scene, and how it's developing or moving from the classic art to more modern. There is a lot of what I see during our residency. We try to invite a sort of local artist, let's say little classic, and then with younger artists from the universities, just art college. And here there is the dialogue starting, and we can immediately see how things are developed here. And most of now young, especially ladies and girls here, the art, it's like a daily rhythm going on. And the social media, there's a lot of creation of art there, and there is a lot of discussion also in art. That's amazing tool, the social media here, to discuss and to show what's going on in this area. I'm very happy that there is a big let's say developing in the art scene here in Doha, and it is just going on the right.
So much, Khalifa. And with that, I just want to thank you again for joining us today as panelists and bringing context into this concept of an event, and also revealing the unseen challenges of contemporary art curation from your own experiences. I'm sure this will be just the first of many discussions that we will have in collaborations with each one of you. And I want to thank our audiences for tuning in and being part of this conversation that was very interesting to us, and hopefully it will be was to you. And again, thank you again for your time. And this episode will be available online for anyone who's interested in tuning in again and watching the episode. And for our upcoming events, please also subscribe to our mailing list and check on our website and the social media, and also our partners, because I'm sure they have a lot of interesting and upcoming events coming up. Take care and have a good rest of your day or evening.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
A pleasure.
Thank you. Have a good day.